Welcome back to Don Critic. Hack and slashers, popularised by Capcom's Devil May Cry and has been a strong niche genre ever since, and one country that embraces the hack and slasher brawler genre more than most others is Japan. Dynasty Warriors, Senran Kagura, Onichambara. Japan publishers are always cranking out new hack and slash content, and I always have to try them out. Whether for their fast-paced, flashy, combo-heavy gameplay, or their often out-of-this-world crazy storylines to piece these explosive battles together. Well, today I have the honour of giving you everything you need to know about D3 Publishers' brand new hack and slash franchise from developer Shade. This is Samurai Maiden. Samurai Maiden is a character-based hack and slasher mixed with a few very light RPG leveling systems and a visual novel take on the delivery of its story. By this I mean there are no cutscenes between missions, but instead we have text boxes and character expressions to push the narrative forward, which is a standard approach to visual novel storytelling in many Japanese games. A character-based hack and slasher is a term I like to use for one that centres its gameplay, its story and its progression on one central character. And for Samurai Maiden, that is Tsumugi. While there are 4 main characters, Tsumugi is the only one we will be controlling, and she is the centre of Samurai Maiden. In fact, as soon will become clear, Tsumugi is the Samurai Maiden. See, this universe has a prophecy that a long time ago there was a powerful maiden, a priestess of harmony, and she defeated the great demon lord of hell, who subsequently fell into a deep slumber. Unbeknownst to 21st century high school student Tsumugi, who is a descendant of the Priestess of Harmony, and one day whilst in school she is mysteriously transported from modern day back to 1582 Japan. Now 1582 was the real life year of the Honnoji incident. If you're unaware, the Honnoji incident of 1582 was when Mitsuhide Akechi, a powerful samurai general, betrayed and murdered his lord Nobunaga Oda, one of the most significant daimyo of Japanese history, a mighty and fearful ruler who wanted to unify all of Japan through war. However, in Samurai Maiden, history is changed when Tsumugi travels back in time to the day of the Honnoji incident, and accompanied with Nobunaga's bodyguard and new character Ayo, the pair manage to save and rescue him from Mitsuhide's soldiers, changing his fate and the course of history. But the very interesting part about this is the 2 girls are unaware of this change in history, or at least to start with. Ayo obviously doesn't know of the future as she is a shinobi from 1582, and Tsumugi had a history textbook with her when she was teleported back in time, but she has since lost it upon arriving. When Tsumugi gets introduced to Ayo and the other 2 characters, Hagane and Kamimi, they fill in Tsumugi on her prophesized mission to defeat the Demon Lord, which is in the process of being awoken by Mitsuhide Akechi. So the quartet set off on the quest to the underworld and find the Demon Lord altar and put the beast to rest. Samurai Maiden plays level by level, and there's 27 levels in the whole game, and you control Tsumugi, who is equipped with a katana. Ayo, Hagane and Kamimi are simply support characters that you don't directly control, instead issuing orders to them mid-battle, giving the game some slight real-time tactics, but it's not all that deep. Each support character has their own unique skills and ability to aid Tsumugi. Ayo, the young 16th century shinobi, can throw fire shurikens and can place down items from your item bar. These can range from timed explosives to healing pots. Hagane, a cyborg from a different world entirely, is equipped with a metal gauntlet that she can shoot out in front of her and can electrocute any enemies within her vicinity. It's definitely the weakest ability of the 3, however, and saw me using her the least, which ended up in her character getting the least amount of levelling up as I progressed through the game. Each support character does have their own level depending on how much you use them. Levelling them up unlocks your character new skills and moves. She can also use her gauntlet to grapple herself and Tsumugi across platforms, adding a few platforming elements to the game. Kamimi is a fox lady, also from another world. Her ability has her launch her giant hammer down on foes, delivering high damage. She can also be commanded to pick up and throw explosives. Personally, I don't think their skills are all that exciting or even really that creative. The fact that you need to have Io summoned and then use a R2 button to have her place down a healing pot while she runs over to the designated spot and place it down just so you can get a heal is incredibly infuriating when you're in the middle of a difficult and fast-paced battle. It also doesn't make much sense why they don't also fight or help in battles when you're not giving them commands. Outside of this, they are pretty useless. Now, Samurai Maiden comes with all the janky controls and combat that you can expect from this side of the gaming spectrum, having to wait for animations to end before you can use your evasive moves, your combos locking onto smaller grunt enemies, not being able to redirect mid-air, not being able to cancel combos, your camera being obstructed by enemies' attacks or confined spaces, being stun-locked by half a dozen enemies all wanting to hit you at the same time. All of these, what I'm going to call jank mechanics, were ironed out by games from 2-3 generations ago. God of War's right stick roll could cancel combos and have you move before animations had to end. Devil May Cry's fixed camera angles solved many obstruction issues that could have been a detriment to the gameplay. Dynasty Warrior's vast battles solved getting stun-locked by 1,000 enemies by simply repositioning the AI to attack at different times to one another. Samurai Maiden had many peers to follow in the footsteps of, but jank in overpriced Japanese AA action games is unfortunately an all too common practice. My best strategy I used to get through the latter half of the game was to spam Kamimi's hammer slam ability as often as it was available, and mash the square combo. Samurai Maiden's combat is just really not as fun as I was expecting. If there was one aspect I thought they would nail, it would be the sword fighting, but that is unfortunately not the case. When you start, you only have access to square 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 combo and a heavy attack with triangle. Throughout the game, as you level up your sidekicks, you unlock more longer combo strings for square and for triangle, except you don't actually unlock any new combos that mix and match the pair. The heavy attack chain is so slow to wind up in comparison to the high damaging and much faster enemies and mini bosses that you'll be up against, so the light square combo was much more safer and beneficial to spam more than anything else on offer. Enemy design is also somewhat lacking. You've got your skeleton warriors, exploding flying skulls, your fantasy generic blobs, your ogres, and then there are a handful of mini-bosses that range from giant spear-wielding skeleton warriors, robot samurai, and charging ogres. With such a small pool of enemies to populate the game's linear levels, it starts to use an age-old tactic of how do we make our game more challenging but without coming up with any new features? Let's just throw more at the player. So the last few levels are painful to get through as you're just fighting more and more and more of the same tiresome mini-bosses and enemies, just all at the same time instead of increasingly getting more challenging. So Samurai Maiden becomes more of a drag to play than it does a fun and challenging slasher. You'll start to press the buttons harder and faster, hoping that it'll complete the level quicker. You'll be battling with the jank, the long recovery times, the mind-numbing wait to get a heal from Io, and that's if she doesn't get hit whilst carrying her heal pot, because if she does, that's one of your heal pots completely wasted. You'll be battling with the game's camera as the screen is just filled with far too many enemies and traps for you to even concentrate on. Like, I can't even think of a single previous hack and slasher that I've had to go back and replay old missions just to get some currency to upgrade my sword. Usually slashers mission difficulty level at a steady pace to your own equipment, but the difficulty spikes in Samurai Maiden are so sharp that one level you can feel like you championed it quite well, you're proud of yourself, and then bam, next mission you just get floored out of nowhere. Your sword no longer does squat to the enemy's health bars, and you're sat wondering what the hell just happened. Did I also mention this game only gives you one life per level as well? What is this, 1996? Samurai Maiden does have a few rare checkpoints mid-level, but they only allow you to respawn back once, die a second time, and it's right back to the very start of the stage. When you lose a health pot due to your idiotic AI or die getting juggled by a screen full of erratic enemies, it can feel extremely unfair that you're only given one chance to try again. Luckily, about 50% of the 27 main levels in the game are rather short. In between the arse kicking and the getting your own arse kicked, the story of Samurai Maiden slowly ventures on. The narrative is very much centred around these four girls, and their interactions are actually really intriguing as they're each from different worlds or time periods, so they all have questions about each other's lifestyles and technology. It's actually quite a cutesy story if you're into that kind of thing, but it is all delivered in that visual novel way, so if you're not used to reading text boxes and seeing the characters stand idle and jerk between different emotes, then this isn't gonna be for you. There are two more historical figures that you'll frequently come across. First, you'll meet Kenshin Uesugi, the historical chief of the Uesugi clan of Sengoku, Japan, and the other is Shingen Takeda, another powerful daimyo of Sengoku, Japan. The pair have been gender swapped, likely due to the themes of the game, and they act as the game's boss battles outside of the final boss. Yes, if we aren't counting mini-bosses, the game only has 3 boss characters. Kenshin Uesugi uses a spear, which gives him her quite a long range with her sweeping attacks, and she also has some lunging moves. Really, she's not all that different from some of the mini-bosses that you'll fight, she just moves and recovers much quicker. Shingen Takeda, much like many old drawings and paintings of the legendary warrior, wields her iconic fan. She uses it in a few sweeping combos, but also has the ability to summon whirlwinds, trees, and launch fire waves along the ground. I found Shingen to be a little easier to outmaneuver than Uesugi. Shingen has a lot more opportunities for you to unleash your combos upon her, and then right before the final level, the game throws both Sengoku champions at you at the same time. But work on Uesugi first, and Takeda will then go down quite easily. So it's time to talk about the plot twist, a twist that if you're familiar with Sengoku Japan or just know anything about Nobunaga Oda even on a casual level, you'll probably be able to see coming from a mile away, but I do like the way that they handle it. Basically, when you reach the Demon Lord's altar, before your group can vanquish the beast while in its slumber, Nobunaga Oda beats you to it and takes the Demon Lord's power for himself. Wow, who would have thought the historical character often nicknamed the Demon King would become the Demon Lord? See, when Tsumugi travelled to the past and lost her history textbook, Nobunaga Oda was the one in possession of the book this whole time. He had used the time to read up on his future. He knows about his death on this date in 1952. He knows all about the world wars to come, so for someone who wanted to end all wars, Nobunaga Oda saw the only choice to change the fate of the world, a world that would continue to be in war long after his death, was to fuse with the Demon Lord. I find this to be a great take on the character and source material. This actually feels well in character of Nobunaga Oda, taking the most dangerous route in hopes of securing a better future. However, the Demon Lord has other plans, and it's still up to Tsumugi and the gang to defeat him. The final boss is one deadly battle. It pits you against the Demon Lord and 4 mini-bosses that enter the battle one at a time when the Demon Lord's HP drops past a certain percentage. The arena is surrounded by lava that you can fall through and take damage. There's also blob enemies that can be a real nuisance as they can jump attack you whilst you're trying to manage fighting one of the bosses. The tactics to use on the Demon Lord is to air combo the eyes on his chest, and taking out each eye will drop its head onto the arena, which you can then attack to drop its health. When the head drops, you want to stay away from its face as it can bite attack and fire a powerful laser beam. Stay behind it and spam everything you've got, whilst also staying out of the way of the other enemies. After a certain amount of time, the Demon Lord will take his head back, and this will be time to work on the mini-bosses whilst dodging the Demon Lord's sword swipes at the same time. It is definitely the hardest fight in the game. The camera, the slow recovers, the stun locking, and the awkward, the terrible pot usage mechanic all show the most in this battle. On my winning run of the boss after like 12 attempts, I only defeated the 2 skeleton mini bosses and left the 2 ogres as they're quite slow, so you have a little more open time to get another hit on the Demon Lord's chest, and then once his head drops again, just give it everything you've got and that will be the Demon Lord defeated. You'll either leave feeling drained and overworked with Jank, or you'll feel a victorious essence radiating from your sore, button-spamming fingertips. Completing the game unlocked me the next level of difficulty, hard mode, but taking that challenge on wasn't in my best interests. Instead, I went over to the second mission screen where leveling up my support characters had unlocked me some Bubble Pocket missions. Now, Bubble Pockets act as side quests that allow Tsumugi to interact more with each individual party member, having more intimate conversations, and the level design massively shifts from being action orientated to having a bigger focus on platforming and utilising that specific character's support ability. These were definitely a welcome change from the main game, where the platforming isn't very satisfying, nor do the levels look all that appealing. Still, some extra content past the main game was really nice, and these would have been even much nicer to play throughout the main game, giving you a break from the constant action. So with the game completed, it was finally release day, where I got access to the DLC for this game under the Deluxe Upgrade Pack. This is quite an expensive day 1 pack of content, but I'll take you through what's contained here. So there's 4 additional background soundtracks based on each main character, there's 8 new costume designs, 2 for each character. Io, Hagani and Kamimi get school uniforms matching Tsumugi's default attire. Tsumugi gets a samurai inspired outfit, which is my favourite costume in the game. I think it looks pretty and it's elegant, and I love the little mask on her side. The second costume for all the characters is your very typical Japanese anime game swimsuits. A nice detail is every character has a different designed bikini. All the costumes come with different colour palettes, which is another nice touch. The final piece of DLC in the deluxe pack is a new weapon for Tsumugi called the Luminous Eliminator. It very much is a laser sword inspired by the Star Wars lightsaber. It's a red blade and looks very awesome combined with her samurai outfit. The Luminous Eliminator comes fully maxed out, so you can't upgrade its HP or attack power. Its HP stands at an average 200 and its attack power is another average 15. Now the default weapon that I use throughout the game, the Demon Slayer, maxed out has 26 attack power and 450 HP, so it's not very good in comparison to the fully upgraded Demon Slayer default weapon. It definitely could have done with being upgraded further. Still though, the novelty of having like a laser sword in this game is nice, but it's not worth paying the price for the DLC for it. Presentation wise, this is a really vibrant and colourful game. The interiors of the ancient buildings have this really atmospheric lighting and dust effects that you can see in the light. The later levels have snow covered ground and some lava levels, but it does all come with some budget level design. Platforms look like just floating platforms with no thematic consistency to the rest of the game. Levels are linear in design with not very much polish or detail, but the characters models are definitely where most of the time was spent. It's even nice that Tsumugi's outfit and character model gets torn and beaten and bruised throughout the battles as you take damage. Sound design is fairly average and the music is good for an action game of this budget, but it's nothing that you'll be adding to your Spotify playlists. All in all, Samurai Maiden has been less than what I was hoping for, but it hasn't felt like time wasted for the most part. I did enjoy this adventure and the narrative, but I am a sucker for anything related to Japanese history. Combat was simplistic, the jank certainly makes a lot of the battles frustrating, and the lack of enemy designs can drag the levels and make many of them feel very much the same. The characters can be quite interesting in their interactions, despite them feeling like Yuri anime archetypes. The female romance visual novel sub-story that they've got going on also may not be for everyone. If you want a new hack and slasher that has a classic bargain bin PS2 game feel, then Samurai Maiden is worth checking out on a steep sale. A solid right down the middle 5 out of 10 from me. I've been Don Critic, I hope you've all enjoyed this video and there are plenty more on the way. Thank you all so much for watching and have a nice day. Take care.